It's gonna be a good one.
It's gonna be a good one.
Definitely a different type of process.
Cut down or freeze up.
Being a coach's son.
Jackson, of course, they keep retooling. One stolen base, a hit by pitch. Oh my goodness. Hello everyone, welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for this edition of YBMcast Baseball Talk, powered by Game 7 Baseball, Game7Baseball.com. Guess what? The schedule's out for Game 7 Baseball. I know that's shocking to hear. It's only November, but hey, that's the way it works in today's baseball. If you don't have a schedule out, you don't know what you're doing. So the schedule's up. It's on the website, Game7Baseball.com. Go start checking it out. And this year we got something new, our Super 7 series going on. We're going to release the dates that we're going to be out with Game 7 Baseball. Not to mention May 31st to June 1st. Youth Baseball Midwest is hosting with Game 7 Baseball our Super 7 Invitational for 14U only. It's a little bit of a showcase of 14U players. We want to bring in those guys so we can kind of see who's going to the next level. You know, it's the next level, the next jump. Who's going to high school? Who are the kids standing out? So we wanted to jumpstart this in 2025. So our Super 7 Invitational 14U tournament will be out at the WAC, Warrenton Athletic Complex. Looking forward to that. So we got some invitations out. Got an invitation out to Coach McGee's group down there. So Coach, we'd love to have you come on up, showcase your team up there. Be a lot of fun. So make sure you check that out, Game7Baseball.com. Winter Workout Tour right around the corner. We're going to be Columbia, Kansas City. We're going to be down in Springfield showcasing the youth programs of Willard and Nixa down there as well. We're going to be going back over to Nashville. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to be doing live events. My goodness, we're getting ready, geared up, ready to go. The off season is where we really kind of pick up speed. So there you go. It's a lot of fun. All that said, today on the show, we have joining us, as always, the guru. You see him up there, Mr. Kevin Moulder, Prep Baseball Report. How we doing, Kevin?
Doing well. How about yourself?
I'm fantastic. A lot going on, a lot of fun stuff happening. And joining us on today, because we're going to be talking about the new Central Ozark Conference, is head coach Willard Baseball, Class 5, MSHSAA State Champions, Scott McGee. How we doing, buddy?
Doing great. Excited to talk about baseball in November. We're in high school playoff football and basketball starting, but baseball's going to be here before we know it. I'm excited about it.
See, this is what I love about this. I used to see that, and I was like, all these guys talking football during baseball seem like, what's going on, whatnot? Well, back at you, buddy. Here we go. That's what I mean, right? It's baseball. I don't think I've gotten a chance to talk to either one of you guys. How about them Dodgers, huh?
That was great. I was a little disappointed. The series didn't go at least 6 games, but yeah, Dodgers were clearly the best team in baseball, and the best team doesn't always win, but they did this year, I'd say.
It was really pretty cool to see Dave Roberts have to manage that series a little bit more like a college manager would to get through a super regional. Really good move to burn his best relievers in innings 4, 5, 6, 7, and then get to the end, and you got to bring back your starter off 2 days rest, and a lot of that stuff's pretty cool. It's difficult as a major league manager to navigate that because it's so different than the regular season, and so that, and then of course obviously all their star power at the position player group was really fun to watch.
Yeah, honestly, to your point there, Scott, I think Dave did. I think he pushed all his chips into the middle in Game 5, because I think if the Yankees somehow pull that out and it goes to Game 6, honestly, I think the Yankees had more in the tank and they win that series after that. That's just my thought process to it. Because, Robert said, here we go, let's go. We got to go win this thing right now. If we don't, I don't know what we got left. because he, like you said, he'd burned up a lot of dudes. You had Yamamoto going, but I think Yamamoto might have had to pitch a complete game in Game 6. And that's you just don't see that anymore. So I think it was bold. I loved it. And to me, the best thing that you saw out of that was when he walked out there and Blake Trinan, and I'm thinking he's pulling Trinan. It's over, analytics, all the stuff. And when he walked back off the mound, I was like, yeah, Dave Roberts, heck yeah, dude. Live or die. Here we go. Let's play baseball. He's your dude. And I loved that part of it as far as seeing those things.
Yeah, I want to jump in on that. I disagree with you. I think had they played games 6 and 7, the Dodgers would win the next 2 games, honest to God. But Coach McGee, one thing that I thought was a lot of fun, and I'm sitting there talking to my, my 8-year-old and 6-year-old boy going through this. How much coachable moments were there during the World Series, and just the stuff you talk about, I'm sure, with your team ad nauseum. Hey, defense is so important, and that the Yankees look to be on cruise control in Game 5, and then you give them a 6-out inning, and it was a little bit of everything. 2 errors and then a pitcher not getting over. It was a weird spin on that ball, so I'm sure 99 out of 100, the first baseman just runs through that, but not on that one, and you get over. So there's so many coachable points. I remember talking to my boys about, hey, stepping on the front of the bag instead of the middle of the bag. There was a replay review where a guy was safe at first base and he hit the very front part of the base. I'm like, boys, right there, that's safe and out. If he hits the middle, he's out. They just overturned it and he's safe. So I love the World Series. I love the playoff baseball. It's so different than the regular season. It does go back to more of a college style, even high schoolish style, because the big league season is so different. Hey, why don't we? I never see bunting. They don't manage the bullpen. They do it all in the postseason. It's pretty cool to watch. Postseason baseball is a great product.
And not just the teachable moments on defense and base running, but the ability to handle the adversity of a game. Like, it just snowballed on the Yankees. And it snowballed on Judge in the playoffs, period. Is kind of reminiscent of that A-Rod series he had 15 or 20 years ago. But, even at that level, the best player possibly, got Ohtani, but one of the best players in the world. And when things started to go bad, how could you get going? That made it really tough.
It did. And I think that was when Ohtani went down, when coming back, how do you think those things kind of affected? It didn't seem to affect him. But at the top of that lineup, he didn't do much in the World Series. But yet, I think that's a testament to the depth of a lineup. And when you're talking about coaching and you're talking about 1 through 9, and you talk about pitchers having to go out, you look at the midseason pickup there with Tommy Edman that made a huge impact. And there's a guy, if you're talking about baseball, yeah, you have the superstars and Mookie and Shohei. You have Aaron Judge and Soto. But Tommy Edman won the NLCS MVP. He was money in the World Series. And then Kike Hernandez, in my opinion, without Kike and Tommy Edman, the Dodgers offense doesn't go because there's nobody on base there for those guys to hit in. I think that's a huge aspect, and you got to have those role players, those guys in the middle of that lineup that keep everything rolling, that get you back to the top of the lineup, that get back to your big guns at the top of that lineup. I thought it was huge.
Yeah, it's a championship recipe is a championship. Like, you need your stars to be stars, and the Dodgers had Freddie Freeman and the big time pitcher. But then, you have to have your other guys. I'm going back to Willard. You have some stars certainly, but I remember Jared McGee coming up and hitting a big two-run base hit up the middle, and he certainly wasn't your star last year. So it takes a complete team to be able to win a championship, no matter whether we're talking about the 5A Missouri State Championship or the World Series or the College World Series. You cannot win a baseball game or championship with just the best player in the sport. The Angels have tried that. They had the three top generational players on one team in Pujols, Trout, and Shohei, and they couldn't even make the playoffs. And that's the great thing about baseball as opposed to some other sports. It is truly a team. Your 9-hole batter matters. Your every single defender on the field matters. It is a complete team sport. Your bullpen matters. You can't just have the best pitcher in baseball and think you're going to be. You have to have a complete team, and the Dodgers were certainly that this year.
Absolutely. Guys, let's talk here. We got a new conference. There's a lot of stuff going on down in Southwest Missouri. There's a conference shakeup, a lot of moving parts. I started looking at this last year and man, trying to find information and going through this stuff. There was a lot of teams just shuffled everywhere. But we're going to start here. We got Coach McGee on part of the Central Ozark Conference here, the COC. We're going to start here. I'm going to list out the teams. West Division, Carthage Tigers, Joplin Eagles, Neosho Wildcats, Parkview Vikings, Republic Tigers, Webb City Cardinals, and the Willard Tigers. In the East Division, it's a total of 14 teams. You got the Kickapoo Chiefs, Lebanon Yellow Jackets, Nixa Eagles, Ozark Tigers, Waynesville Tigers, the Central Bulldogs, and the Glendale Falcons. Now, just on a personal note, when I see these names, it takes me back to 1981, 82, when I was at Lebanon High School, and we would truck down to either Joplin or to Kickapoo or to Parkview, and these old-time schools, and Lebanon got kicked around quite a bit at that time. But, these are schools that I'm very familiar with, been around and seen and whatnot. So it's interesting. All these schools into this 14-team conference. It's kind of a super conference. I'm calling it one of the Power 5 conferences in this state because I think up and down when you look at the list of these teams, and Kevin, I want you to jump in on this. These are really solid programs, right?
I think the southwest part of the Missouri is my favorite area to come to. Not necessarily the best team every year or my favorite necessary venue, but if you look at it collectively, who puts the most, I'm going to say, investment, interest, the way they go about it as a whole. I'm not talking about one program. I would give it to the southwest portion, and I'm looking at these teams in this conference, and I've been to basically all these parts. It just feels different than when you walk to a game, in Kansas City or St. Louis. A lot of attention to detail within the whole program, whether that's feeder teams. When I'm at a Willard game, I see 9, 10, 11-year-old, 12-year-olds in Willard hats. I'm like, well, there's the next guy right there. And I bet you Coach McGee knows that kid's name, or he's been to a Coach McGee camp, and just the attention to detail in the parks, and it's more than just a field. I would call it a baseball park or facility. So I think this is great that we're consolidating, and this is going to be highly competitive. There's some really good teams and programs in this conference.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting. I mean, you're really kind of combining all the best teams from the COC and the OC. The OC's not around anymore. Glendale, Lebanon, Kickapoo have won the OC the last 3 or 4 years. They're now all in this league. Last year was Webb City and Willard shared the COC title, and that doesn't even count Nixa, who's loaded with talent, Ozark, who's got multiple Division I guys, Republic, who's got a Division I guy, Neosho, who's got a Division I guy. I mean, you just go through. I bet if you took the 10 best teams in Southwest Missouri, 8, 9, or 10 of them are in this conference. And so it's really going to make it good. And even though there is an East and a West, we're all playing each other. So you got 13 conference games. It's every Tuesday and Thursday for 7 weeks, and it's going to be a really, really cool deal. The Tuesday night matchups of pitching are going to be insane. It's going to be really fun. You got Friday night guys in college baseball and high school baseball. It's your Tuesday night guys in our area, and you're going to see a bunch of 1-0, 2-1 games on Tuesday nights.
Coach, will you explain to us how will the conference lay out? How do you play everybody each year? Is it a home and a home, or is it a 2-game series? How is that going to run?
Yeah, so there were several things that got floated, but what we're doing for the next 2 years is you play everybody. So like this year, we go to Nixa comes to us. Next year, we'll go to Nixa on that same corresponding date. So we'll play all 13 teams. Now they are doing a West champ and an East champ, but that doesn't really mean anything because it's not like there's a overall league champ after that. That's just kind of done to. I'm not sure why we're doing it that way, but so you got 13 conference games basically, and I think that's the way most of us are going to approach it. And so it's going to be really competitive baseball.
They should then make a 3-game series for the championship, right, Kevin?
Well, that's for the coaches to decide. So will the games be you will play on Tuesday versus, let's say, Nixa, and then are you done for the week, or would you maybe play Ozark on Wednesday or Thursday? Or
on Thursday we will, yeah. So everyone plays a
Thursday.
Tuesday conference and a Thursday conference game, which
Okay.
I like that schedule. You figure you get a doubleheader on Saturday. You got at least 4 games every week. You throw in an occasional Monday or Friday, and that's your schedule right there, which is really nice.
Wow.
I think a lot of us still do the doubleheaders on Saturdays with a variety. We'll be 3 teams. We'll go up to play Liberty. We'll go up to play whoever, and that part's really good. So.
Wow. I love that because, Kevin, that reminds us of the GAC up here. The Tuesday, you got that big-time matchup, the arms. And I love that thought process because then you get, that's where it generates a lot of publicity. It generates a lot of attraction for casual fans, I think. And I think that's a huge part of it because we do I got to get another crew down in Southwest Conference or a Southwest down there so we can do the Tuesday game of the week for the COC.
It will be interesting to follow, and this will be something that you probably figure out as you get into it a year or two. What is different, though, about the GAC and the Kansas City one, they play the same opponent the whole week.
Yes.
So this does set up for a little bit of cat and mouse where maybe the supposed best team is playing the 13th team for that year, and maybe they have the number 2 team on Thursday. A coach will have a decision. Should I trot out my big dog pitcher that's signed at Big School U, or do I hold him and throw him against my rival or my top competition for that year when I know I could throw my number 2 and probably be in good shape? So it does set up for a little cat and mouse that way. It will be interesting to see how people deploy their pitching staffs as we go through these first year or two here.
If you look at our schedule, we've got Lebanon on a Thursday, or on a Wednesday. We go to the Columbia tournament and play 5 times, and then we come back and we got Glendale on Tuesday. And so you start looking at that. How do you navigate your pitching? Last year we got to that Columbia tournament, and unfortunately we basically had to punt 2 of the 5 games. So we had 5 losses last year. We went into that Francis Howell game and we threw our number 6, and we went to the Staley game and threw our number 8, and you can imagine how those 2 games went. And I'm not saying the pitchers threw that bad. It's just those are really good teams. No. But you got to. Yeah. Then we had to come back because then we played Nixa on the following Tuesday, and that game. If we won that game, we won the conference. If I would have done it any other way, we don't win the COC. So you're kind of trying to make decisions as you go.
Absolutely. So talk to us a little bit. I want to know a little bit about this. What brought about this realignment? Why? What was the thinking behind this, Coach?
Well, you guys kind of know football drives everything, and we kind of had a couple of schools that were in the COC that did not feel like due to enrollment they could compete in the COC in football anymore. And so they broke off and formed their own conference. And then they started plucking away some of the other schools in a similar boat. And so what that resulted in is a lot of the biggest schools all now have ended up in the same league. It's not always that way. A couple of those schools are bigger than a couple of schools that left are bigger than us. We kind of stayed for a variety of reasons. I don't think conference realignment is probably done down this way. I think you're going to see something different in either 2 to 4 years when the new cycles start to come up. I don't know that for sure, but it's kind of the rumors you hear. you guys know this, the sizes of schools are changing rapidly in our state. If you look at the mission enrollments, we had schools in our state that lost 300 plus kids. We had schools that gained 250 kids in enrollment. And with the possibility of open enrollment and school choice and all that stuff, it's a kind of a never-ending change. And so luckily for the interim, we're all in the best baseball situation possible. And we'll see what happens over the next 2 to 4 years.
In Springfield, the area, not necessarily the city, has exploded, correct, Coach? It is
Absolutely.
is gaining population, and so these populations within enrollments within schools are going to be going up or changing, shifting, etc.
It's crazy. Branson is bigger than Parkview. 10 years ago, Parkview had 1,700 kids in their high school. Now Branson's bigger. Even you go out to the Joplin area, and schools like Carthage and Neosho and even Webb City are exploding in population. And so the ones who are just a little bit behind that, like a Carl Junction, who can't quite keep up, they said, we don't want to be part of this anymore. We're playing schools twice our size in football. We can't compete with that. And so that's kind of what spurred the conference change. But who's to say in 10 years, Carl Junction won't be that school growing, and then we'll see some more realignment. I mean, it's the way that kind of goes. In Springfield specifically, Kickapoo has been very stable in enrollment, but the other schools have all declined in enrollment, and a lot of those kids have ended up at these outlier schools.
Yeah. I could see that kind of happening like what they do with the St. Louis Suburban or the Kansas City Suburban conferences, with one conference with like 5 different divisions within that. It could end up going that way, couldn't it, Coach?
I think that's kind of what we're hoping for. The football 9-game conference schedule makes it really tough for people. So I don't know that 10-team leagues work anymore in football. And so I think you're talking about maybe, could we get 22 schools and put them into 3 groups? That kind of thing, kind of very similar to what a lot of the schools do up there. And I think that would really help a lot of us. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because we're going to do this. I'll probably have you back on because I want to talk about, I think it's the Mid Lakes now, the Ozark Mountain Conference.
Yeah.
The Big 8 is still there too, correct?
Big 8's still here.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's all very fluid in how everybody. It took me about 8 months to just get everybody where I still don't know if I've got everybody correct.
I don't know that I do either. I know the COC really well, and I'll figure out the rest as we go.
Oh, so let's get into this. We took a look at the prep baseball report for Missouri, Mr. Kevin Moulder here, and we plucked the top 5 from each of these lists in each class, and we're going to look at this. And then at the end, we got a little special something here. Coach McGee threw us his top 5, and so I think it'll be hey, it's all right, it's good. And those, Coach, I didn't necessarily
throw you my top 5. You had asked for some juniors that weren't on the list. I don't want you to.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone watching this to think that I jumped in and think Kevin doesn't know what he's talking about.
No.
Okay,
No, that's not it.
All the listeners know this.
These are in addition to. These are other good talking.
Yes.
Because these were not kids that were anywhere on the PBR list. That means they hadn't probably gone to an event. So that's.
And we are looking at the most outdated these rankings can be. We actually refresh these in like 2 weeks. So, like players have fallen in or changes. And I'm always the first to say, like, these rankings have a very short shelf life because these players change rapidly. This offseason, there will be someone that is, a middle of the road player at whatever height at Willard will come out and become a known player because of his work and, maybe gains, 2 or 3 inches and puts on 12 pounds in the weight room and works his butt off. And he's a different guy. I'm sure Coach sees that on a yearly basis in his program.
It's crazy. And in the area programs, you might have a scouting report on a kid that you're like, and then you see him up close the next year and you're like, whoa. Glendale has had a few kids like that the last few years that just Brooks Kettering is a great example of that as a sophomore had no power, was just a good singles hitter, and now he's beating Arkansas in in regionals by himself almost because he's hitting bombs left and right. But he got better every single year, and I don't think kids realize how much better you can improve in 6, 8, 10 months if you really work at it.
There you go. Well, and this goes to, just something we had, because Kevin we had Dave Wiggins sitting in talking about the St. Louis conference up here. And I didn't know, I mean, I'd heard the kid's name, but and he said this, he goes, I don't mean any offense to Kevin or his ranks. I love what he does, whatnot, but he says, Ryan Bradford is a freak. Right. And so this is a guy, he said, I've seen him up close. This is what he does. So I want everybody to understand we're looking at what we've done here. It is fresh. It'll refresh. This is just so we can talk baseball in the off season. This is what we're doing, baby. We keep everybody fresh. We keep everybody fresh in the mind. We want to keep pushing baseball out because it's going to be another good season. And when Kevin refreshes all the stuff and we get back and we'll make him make his predictions, then he'll be bold. Right now, he's not so bold.
The other thing to think about rankings is you're not necessarily rating, this is the best player today. Some of it's off college projection and what's going to happen afterwards. And, so that's why you maybe get some discrepancies in people's opinions. I'm viewing things on how does this kid help me win the game today? And a college coach is thinking, what does this kid look like when he's 21? And so we're coming at things from different avenues. And that's what's great about this game.
We've had some great discussions about that, how the best player in your conference could maybe be, a small school collegiate player, and a kid with a 5.5 ERA might be heading to Mizzou or might have pro scouts in the stands. And that does not mean he's going to be a good high school player, but it also doesn't mean he's going to be a great college player or a bad college player. It's so much more on projection than it is actual gameplay, if that makes sense.
Absolutely does. And that's the way it should be. So, and this is why these conversations, I think, continually as we have them, as we walk down, we get coaches' viewpoints because they're seeing these kids. We got Kevin seeing these kids in these different settings, looking at projectability. So it's just all the variations of what we're seeing with these kids at these stages. And then we'll go into the season, we'll have some fun and play some baseball, right? That's the way it should be. 2025 class. Number 3 is a young man we've been talking about for quite some time, Kevin. Sebastian Norman there at Glendale High School. I think their best shot may have been last year. With the talent, I don't know if they're going to have as much talent this year, but this young man still, a lot of talent here.
Yeah, and I misspoke just a minute ago. It is a blended approach between on-field and projection, not strictly on projection. But yeah, you look at Sebastian Norman out of Glendale. We have him ranked as our top positional player in the state. This guy is both. He is projection and he is on-field performance. He's one of the more talented players that have come through the state in terms of raw athleticism and tools, Coach. I have legitimately had this guy sub 6'4" in the 60. He is built like a NFL running back. We're talking easy 100+ natural exit velos during BP. He has a good throwing arm. He is a tooled up dude and one that will be scouted this spring. Him and the first 2 guys on the list we actually invited to our 60, which is our top national event in the winter, our top roughly 60 players in the country. And so that's what we think of the top 2 players there on the list with Caden Cloud and Sebastian Norman.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about Sebastian real quick. His ability to adjust pitch to pitch is not seen in high school baseball. We have not been able to get him out in the last 2 years. I don't know if it's our pitch execution. I think some of it's my pitch calling. I kind of have a system that I feel like works well against a lot of hitters, and we just have not been able to get him out. His ability to be late on a fastball and then immediately make the adjustment to be on time for the fastball on the very next pitch, maybe in a tougher location than the one he just saw is really impressive. I don't know if it's a swing thing or if he's that advanced in his mental approach. I don't know him well enough to know that. But as far as guys making in-at-bat adjustments, we have not had a guy like that down in this area in the last 5 or 6 years.
Wow.
The talent is different. One standout, like when we're talking about separating talents and like, yeah, that kid's really good. He hit 450. One thing that's different about actually both of these two, but Sebastian specifically, when you see a high school kid that can legitimately drive the ball off the opposite field wall or over the opposite field fence, the backside, that tells you something about his tool set and his abilities as a hitter. You will see big, strong kids. They can hit a pole side homer. This kid can drive a pitch the other way intentionally, and that is a big separating factor for Sebastian.
Wow. The next kid, as you mentioned, Caden Cloud. When I got a chance, I haven't got the opportunity to see Sebastian play. I hope to, but we did get to see Caden last year, and I saw two players at that skill level through the season, and that was Titus Sissel and Caden Cloud. That was defensively at the plate. This young man, big, strong, physical, athletic. He just is, here's another kid, Coach, you got to face in your conference. What do you do with him?
Well, you'd love to see you'd pitch around him, but Nix has got about 5 of these guys. Maybe not to the Caden's ability level quite, but they've got their lineup is legit. And he and the other Nixa kid on there are also multi-sport kids who are super athletic. I think that's the thing that separates Nixa in our area is just how athletic their team is. And Caden is a great soccer player, and then that shows in baseball. I think the thing with him is as a freshman, I didn't feel like he was all that physical. And now as a junior, you can tell he's put the work in the weight room. He's gotten a little bit taller, but it's also, you can tell his ability to rotate, his bat speed's really improved. He always had the skill, but now to see his physical projection jump up, I won't be surprised if he doesn't have a good career at Kentucky pretty quickly.
He's a player that star has risen. He's, like Coach said, he's had the skill. I'm sure Coach has seen it well before I did when he was a freshman. But physically, he has taken a big-time jump, and now he is scratching the surface of being a legitimate pro prospect out of high school. I'm not saying he will be drafted out of high school, but he will be definitely watched, and a lot will come down to this offseason and how he performs this spring. But these top two guys are 100% will be on scouts' radars and will be checked on this spring.
There you go. And as we go down through here, as like I said, I'm gonna talk about the two. We'll talk about Wyatt Vincent. I know he's in that 4th spot, but we'll stay with Nixa here. And this is one of those young men. I think he's Kevin, isn't he? Mo State commit.
Missouri State, yes.
Yeah. So and I think Missouri State's doing a really good job in state of getting these kind of guys right here. Don't you think, Kevin?
I do, and I love seeing kids stay home, whether that's any of our schools in our state. And that, honestly, that's where Missouri State has made their money over the years is doing a really good job in the small town areas and getting a good athlete like Wyatt Vincent. And he's been on the scene for multiple years, and you can see right here why Nix has been good. You got, 2 of the top 5 players in the class right there, and they've been certainly on the scene since sophomore year. Were they varsity players as a freshman, Coach?
Yeah, Vincent started every day his freshman year. Cloud was a pinch hitter for them primarily. They had a veteran team, and he did some good things for them. But Vincent hit cleanup on opening day of his freshman year. That's pretty ambitious, and has really grown into a player. He's a great football player. I would not be surprised if he couldn't play Division I football. That's how athletic he is. He also will play a lot in basketball. His base running, his aggressiveness, his defense in center field. That's the one thing that I think is hard to scout is you don't get to see guys make defensive plays enough. So you always wonder, like, I don't know about Cloud and Norman and these other guys. I don't get to see them play defense every day. Their coaches do. But Vincent's defense in center field stands out when you watch that team. And he's a legit middle-of-the-field player at the Division I level defensively. And so that's kind of what separates him, I think, from a lot of guys.
I love that thought process. Talking about defense, we get caught up in the numbers. The offensive numbers is, of course, it's the sexy thing, but the defense, as we just talked about it in the opening, talking about the World Series, the one of the differentiators was the defense. And when you give a team 6 outs in an inning, you're not going to win too many ball games doing that stuff. So I think, especially, Coach Kevin, you can speak to this. You guys both know, you build your defense from the catcher to the center fielder out, correct?
100%. If you're going to be a championship level team or a really good team, you need to be good up the middle. Catcher, shortstop, center field. That's where it all starts for sure.
Absolutely. The team that I want to see, I'm hoping, we can get them on the schedule for our opening, as we were down in southwest part of the state this last year, opening up down there. Ozark. They were kind of right there in the mix last year. These two gentlemen, the number 11 in prep baseball, Hudson Roberts, and number 29 overall, Cooper Pumphrey. Did I say that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
From Ozark. Coach McGee, what have you seen from these guys over the past few years?
Kind of almost two complete opposite, prospects in a lot of ways, I feel like. So Robert, we faced Jack Noby last year. Noby is probably the best pitcher that I have faced off against in a decade plus as a high school coach. If you took him out of the rankings, Roberts was one of the 2 or 3 best pitchers we faced last year. His ability to throw his slider over the plate for strikes, he was the best at holding runners we've seen in the last 3 or 4 years. He's tall and lanky, and he plays a lot of he's a really good basketball player. Just decommitted from Arkansas. I won't be surprised if he can't get to the college level, gain 25 pounds really quickly, and blow up and be a low 90s strike thrower with a good slider and great at holding runners and just a really skilled pitcher. And then you've got Pumphrey, who is kind of late to baseball. Roberts has played tons of baseball his whole life. Pumphrey was involved in hockey for a while. He's a big physical kid, super impressive in the weight room. And then his fastball just jumps. I mean, he's already low to mid 90s. It's just, can he command it consistently? You've seen this play out so many times, guys. The kid who's a junior and is just a little bit too wild to be a really good high school pitcher, and then they put it all together by their senior year. And so it won't surprise me a bit if Pumphrey doesn't vault himself this spring into something really legitimate, because I've just seen this play out, and I know he's a very hardworking kid.
Kevin, what do you think, bud?
No, Coach nailed it. Cooper's a big physical kid, 6'6", and you're buying the future with him. He has not thrown his best pitches yet. His best days are well ahead of him. He is a guy, as a college coach, you want to have your hands on for sure, because that kid is going to be a monster one day. And yes, you got to get to work and clean a couple things up and get a little more in the strike zone and whatnot. But there is a world of upside there. I'm not saying he is, but no, he could be a big leaguer one day. Yeah, that's the frame, that's the stuff. There's a lot of work to be done between now and then. But you stockpile arms like that, and that some of those kids are going to come out of there in advance in baseball. With Hudson, he super athletic kid, legitimate two-way player. I like him a little more on the mound, but I like him offensively for sure. He's a casualty of the new NCAA rules. There's nothing wrong with Hudson Roberts. He's going to be a great collegiate baseball player. You mentioned Ryan Bradford, another casualty of the new NCAA rules, just got decommitted from Kansas State. So Hudson Roberts is going to land on his feet, and someone's going to get a really good player right there. And also a huge upside, big-time athlete, and Coach mentioned the basketball playing. Both of those two guys have bright futures ahead of them.
Here's a shameless plug real quick. I'm going to throw in here. Our new show, Baseball 101 with Coach Darren Sissel. We're going to Kevin didn't know because I haven't talked to him about it yet, but we want to get him back on the show and talk about this because this just come through and it's going to send some shockwaves across the lines here with the what that's going to do to recruiting over the next few years. You're seeing it start to multiply, and I think it's a very interesting conversation. So we'll have to get Kevin on with Darren Sissel and talk more about what's coming, what he sees within the recruiting process here since the new recruiting rules and the new team numbers that is there. I think it's going to be very interesting. Right, Kevin?
It's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a good thing overall, but it's going to be a tough 2 years while we phase into this. I think we can talk about it in another show, I suppose. But I think ultimately it's going to be a good thing, but it's going to be really tough on these 25s and 26s, and there's going to be a lot of movement, and it's going to be messy over the next 2 years, and hopefully we'll end up in a good place here in a couple of years.
Yeah, we want to get some nuts and bolts, and that's why I want to get Kevin just to talk about that because I think it's an important topic for parents, for high school players to hear some of these things. So, and we can get a little more in depth with that, and I think it's definitely a necessary conversation that needs to happen over, so people understand what's coming. It's I think JUCOs are going to get. They're getting ready to. They're going, yeah, baby.
Really good. Already good. It's going to be really good.
Well, and same with Division II baseball down in our area, Missouri Southern, UCM, Drury. Their ability to nab some of these kinds of guys. I mean, Missouri Southern has signed 4 guys from our area on the mound that I think 5-6 years ago might have been Division I pitchers. All actually from our same conference right here, and it's just it's pushing things in a really competitive way.
Yeah, I agree.
100%.
So 2026 class, let's keep moving through here. Now this one is spread out, and I know this is where Coach McGee threw in some 2026, and we'll get to that here. But right at the top of this, here's Neosho. I hadn't really paid much attention to Neosho but Brody Crane right at the top of this, number 13. Kevin, what do you know about, you know a lot about Brody Crane, or some about Brody Crane at least. So tell us what you know.
Brody Crane was a player we brought with us to the future games. First off, I'll mention he has a ton of raw power, ton of juice in the bat. But on the mound specifically, that's a low 90s arm, big, physical, stocky young man. Brody has a good future ahead of him, currently uncommitted, but that's going to be a legit two-way guy for Neosho. I imagine hitting third or fourth and being their Tuesday starter.
Coach, you got Preston McCracken there in Republic, and this is what I think is very interesting here when you look at this. It's very spread out. This one has a lot of kids kind of all over the place. Republic's a team that's been in the mix. Very competitive. What can you tell us about Preston?
So Preston's, you just talked about this, but they had 2 Division I players last year, Cade White at UCA and Trace Harrington. It was a veteran team, so Preston primarily played JV, and he had a back injury, I believe, and so he didn't really play a whole lot. But I've known him for a very long time. Preston is super athletic. He is that guy that you can kind of look at and say in 2 or 3 years he might be a really good athletic 92 to 94 mile an hour arm. He can spin it. He's one of the best football players in Southwest Missouri as well, and just an overall really athletic kid. You watch him pitch and you're like, man, there's something there. He's just got to put it together this year, and he'll be their Tuesday guy for sure.
Luke, go ahead, Kevin.
Just to jump in, and Preston also came with us to the future games and is a great two-way guy in high school. I think he's anticipating being a pitcher in college, and he is committed to Missouri State. So Missouri State with another really nice pickup, a local pickup.
Yeah, Missouri State, you guys mentioned this earlier, but Missouri State, Zach Stewart and Caden Bogenpool are their 2 best position players. They're local, they're in Missouri guys. The coaching staff there is doing a great job of coming out into the area and really trying to lock down kids like this. It's going to really pay off for them.
And I think what's impressive, So it's got to mean something with a Bogenpole after what he tied the freshman record with home runs. Doesn't take some NIL money to go somewhere else. Stays at Missouri State. That's got to speak to something they're doing right in that program down there.
It's really where, and you guys are going to talk about this some other time, but they're recruiting. If you can get local guys and then build a connection with them, they aren't going to want to leave nearly as much. And so this 34-man roster could really help the mid-majors. If you can target the right kids from your own state, you can vault yourself that maybe you can't do it as a football or basketball program at that Power 4 level.
Bogenpool has been fun to watch over the last 3 years, and he is trending towards becoming a day one draft here in another year. Not this draft, the following one.
Exactly. And so it'll be interesting to see. Luke, is it Bayer? Luke Bayer? Is
Yes.
that correct? Another Ozark kid here, 2026 class. Kevin, what do you know about Luke?
I'm going to jump in and say, first off, I guess Luke is lean, tall, athletic, 6'3", 190, infielder, also pitches, has a nice upside. This is where things get really tricky for me. I have seen these players, and Coach mentioned some of this. This is where you get in that line. Some of these guys played varsity. Some of them didn't. Some of them were role players on their varsity team. So unless they had been to an event, it gets really challenging for a guy like me to see these players because I only watch varsity baseball. And if I didn't catch them in my swing through Springfield or in the Columbia tournament, which Ozark did not participate in, then I don't get to see him play in much. So this is where there's going to be where there's more likely to see some bigger movements as we get into the 26 and 27 classes. I'm going to be all over the Brody Cranes and the McCrackens, the kids that have played on some of the national events and maybe are Division I commitments or whatnot. This is where it gets a little more challenging, where I know the players, but a guy like Coach is going to have a much better feel for where these guys fit in at this point because he's seen them more. He's faced them.
Yeah, and I've seen Luke play for a few years. He'll be their number 3 this year, but I think he's been up to 88 this fall. As a position player, he has a lot of power to the pull side. He's a third baseman, probably will start there at Ozark this coming season. He's a guy that a year from now could be one of the 3 or 4 best pitchers in Southwest Missouri. And he's got a lot of. You just mentioned he's got a lot of upside. The fastball jumps. That's the thing with Crane, McCracken, and Bayer. All 3 of them have fastballs that you can kind of dream on and say there's a chance that even if the hitter knows it's coming, they still can't hit it. And so that's a really comforting thing as a pitch caller and as a pitcher to know that they have that level of a fastball.
Man,
yep.
And that goes
there 2 weeks ago actually, and yeah, he is got a big upside. He's the guy that you put the mental note in and like, what's this kid going to look like in March? Because it's probably going to be a little different than right now.
Absolutely.
The next 2 kids, they're a little further down the line in the PBR rankings. Blaine Lillenkamp, I think is probably how it's pronounced, Carthage, and then Cole Milliken, Lebanon. I don't know if they were in that varsity, but this is where we're at with this. And we'll come back to some of the kids you've shot to us from this class as well. But Coach, do you know much about these kids here?
So they did both play varsity. Lillenkamp hit in the middle of the order for Carthage last year. Does some good things. Milliken is a really skilled middle infielder. The physical projection's got to get there, and that's where that's the stuff that Kevin has to deal with. Is because Cole's a good high school player. How much is he going to get stronger in the weight room and that kind of stuff to develop? But he's one of the best guys at Lebanon. Lillenkamp's one of the best guys at Carthage, and it's tough. They're in the second half of the conference probably, and so trying to make a name for yourself in this area is tough when Lebanon has won a lot of games, but Carthage had a new coach last year, and they're still developing as a program.
There you go. 2027 class, we're going to go through pretty quickly because I want to get to, because we're getting close on time, but I want to do this because, Coach, good luck with Nixa over the next few years. I mean, you got number 6, number 8, and number 17 in the PBR rankings here with Adam McKnight, Cameron Miller, and Jalen Gibson all at Nixa. I'll start with you. Have you seen much of these kids yet?
Yeah, I've seen all 5 of them. McKnight's those the top 3 guys are really high level players.
Yeah, we'll come back to Yates, but we're going to look at Nixa real quick.
Yeah, so McKnight hit middle of the order as a freshman. He's also the starting quarterback, and I believe he's a Division I prospect in that sport as well, and was the team's best basketball player as a freshman. He homered off of us, corner outfielder probably in baseball, but has the guy that you guys talked about this with Norman, might be the guy that can hit oppo bombs by the time he's a junior and senior. Got a lot of power, a lot of projection. He's probably 6'4", really good player.
Man. Cameron Miller behind him. So this Adam McKnight, where have you seen you evidently have him pretty high here, Kevin? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, a good number of these players came to our super sophomore games this year in Kansas City, so we got a good up close look. But Adam, yeah, just like Coach said, and anyone this young, this is heavy on projection. These kids have long athletic frames. The top 2 do, where it's not too hard to look ahead and say, yeah, 2 years from now, this kid's going to be really big and strong. He already has a pretty good skill set. When he puts some more strength behind it, this is kind of what a Division I recruit looks like. And those 2 both have that real easy. That's the those are kind of the easier guys for me to project, quite honestly. And then Jalen Gibson. So yeah, the Nixa has a nice pipeline working here where they got a lot of talent in their program currently.
Exactly. This is 2027 class. This kid, you said McKnight is also the starting quarterback varsity squad?
Yeah. Yes.
Jeez. And then plays basketball as well?
He was the leading scorer as a freshman on a team that was state ranked in the largest class. Yeah, he's an athlete. He is a player.
Goodness.
And I don't know how much you guys have seen Miller. Miller's upside on the mound is really good. I think the thing that's impressive about Miller is he doesn't swing and miss very much. A lot of guys that are this athletic, there's a lot of swing and miss to their game. He does not have much swing and miss. I would say he'll be their first baseman this year. I don't. Coach Hughes has a lot of guys. We haven't even mentioned, they've got some seniors on the mound that are really good. I mean, they're loaded right now. It's going to be a fun year for Coach Hughes, but Miller does not swing and miss very much, and that's impressive for a sophomore with that level of athleticism to have as part of their repertoire.
My goodness. That's crazy. The other one here, Brady Yates, Glendale. Kevin, thoughts on Brady Yates?
Young power hitter in the makings. Saw him hit a couple home runs this summer in Kansas City. Brady is a hitter, corner guy, probably third base. But that's your prototypical middle of the lineup third base bat type guy, and Brady will probably be known as one of the top bats in the class moving forward. You're buying the bat there, in my opinion.
I think he homered against us in a JV game, then turned around and played varsity against us. And then I'm talking to Coach Tao at Rockbridge, and I said, he's a young guy. I try to throw him breaking balls, and he started him off with a breaking ball and hit it over the center field wall at Rockbridge in a varsity game the next week. So Tao's not calling me for scouting reports anymore. But the thing with Yates is I just watched him play football this past Friday. His lower body strength is really impressive. I don't know what he does in the weight room, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's not a 405 squat guy. I mean, he's a very physical lower body guy, built a lot like Sebastian Norman. Maybe not the height-wise yet, but can really, really hit. I think he hit 7 bombs as a freshman in varsity baseball. Really, really excited about his upside.
At number 20 here, young man we met way back when we first started. We went down and did a winter workout tour stop with the Midwest Mavericks down there in Springfield, Missouri. Met Coach Sutton, who was coaching his son's team. They were, I think, 13U at the time, maybe 12U. No, I think it was 12U. And Rylan Sutton. So we've known about this young man since then. I don't follow it like what this is, but been in contact. Saw Coach Sutton at the event there in Columbia. It was good to see him. Didn't get a chance to talk to Rylan, though, so we got to make sure we do that here for too long. But this young man, he's got a lot of upside as well, Kevin, correct?
Yeah, you mentioned it. Coach's son and plays like one. Left-handed hitter, started in the outfield at Ozark as a freshman, puts a quality at bat together. Pretty good runner, sub-7 already as a freshman, that's moving for a freshman. It's moving really for anybody. But, Ryland's just a really good baseball player and going to be towards the top of the class for sure moving forward.
Yeah, if Ozark's going to be good this year, he's probably got to turn into more of a middle of the order bat. I think he's grown. I just saw a video of him hitting the other day. It's like he's up to like maybe 6'2", 6'3", and then like Kevin just said, really skilled already. Is pretty impressive. This is a really good class in this area. This 2027 class.
So here we go. Oh man, all right. We're gonna go to Coach McGee's list real quick to finish off here. Coach McGee sent us. I just threw this up here. Got a few players. We're gonna start there in Joplin. Brecken Green, is that correct, Coach?
Yes, it is. This is a great example of the projection versus current ability. Brecken Green and Mason Williams were the only two sophomores that were all conference that are coming back now as juniors in our league. Brecken is a undersized right-handed pitcher that's low to mid 80s, ultimate strike thrower. If I was a Division II program, I would be all over him. He is a really good high school pitcher. He's and it really has developed. I'm excited to watch him throw this year to see if he gains. Last year he was 81 to 83 against us as a sophomore. If he gets to 86 to 88, he's going to be a legitimate college prospect.
Wow. And then down, of course, Webb City, always tough. A catcher, Mason Williams, you got on the list there?
Probably the guy that 15 years ago was playing shortstop or center field. Just a really athletic catcher. He's their starting running back in football. Actually, he took the catching spot away from a senior who they moved to first base last year, and that senior is now back in college and starting as the starting catcher as a freshman. So that just kind of speaks to Mason's defensive abilities. Runs well. You don't see a lot of catchers that run well. He really does. Hitting the 2-hole for them last year, and like I said, was an all-conference level player.
Absolutely. And then, and this is, and I know there might be people go, oh, it's all Willard kids. Yes, they're Willard kids, and they're all very good. Because we saw Levi Hilton, this young man, when we were down there early in the season, he played. I mean, I love to watch this kid play baseball. He's a lot of fun. He's one of your leaders too, isn't he?
Yeah, he'll be our number one pitcher this year. He started the state championship game on more of like an opener last year. Got the first 7 outs of that game against Webster Groves. He hit 92 indoors about 3 weeks ago. He's been up to 88 consistently in games. He's also got really high exit velos. He's 98 off the tee. Probably a little better as a pitcher than a position player at the Division I level, but could be a two-way guy as well because of his bat speed. He'll hit in the middle of our order, and he played every day for us as a sophomore. And I think he's a guy that's about to blow up. If he keeps doing what he's been doing, I think this spring he's going to make a huge name for himself.
And this next young man, we got a chance to talk to him last year because I was like, I didn't want to pronounce his name wrong, and I said, "Is it Hater?" And he says, "Yep, that's what it is." So you just go, "Hater," and it's better that way, right? But don't hate on this kid, man. He can play some baseball, can't he?
Yeah, he will be our starting second baseman, middle infielder, switch hitter. Not a whole lot of switch hitters anymore, but he's a legit switch hitter and runs really well. Will probably hit leadoff. Second baseman, probably going to be a second baseman in college, but will play shortstop in 2026 for us. And just a gritty grinder. I mean, if you've ever watched like UCM play baseball, he feels like the guy that would be perfect in that program. He's that kind of a kid. So yeah, we're excited to have him this year. He started every day for us, and then actually got hurt in the Columbia tournament. Ended up getting a broken bone in his leg and missed the rest of the spring.
Sweet. Well, hey, always the best for last. You got to love the coaches' kids, right, Kevin?
100%. Those are the guys that know how to play.
Well, I saw on X or it was Instagram what deadlift 405 the other day, was it?
That was actually hated. That wasn't him, but he actually had he's had a knee injury back this fall. He's just now getting cleared. He would have been the guy that's going to some PBR events and stuff. Really skilled offensive player. Got to work on his athleticism. He's the guy that's going to hit in the middle of our order. Probably our most skilled offensive player right now, and just really, really excited to have him in the lineup every day this year.
I got to ask you this. It's always tough. How do you deal with those things? It's coach's son kind of thing and whatnot. What are the things that you do as a dad that kind of help, those things? It's tough, isn't it?
It's the hardest thing I've had to do. Kevin's just starting down this road, but trying to deal with it was really hard in youth baseball. It was hard the start of last year. It's really gotten better in the last 8 months. I mean, it's so hard to keep everything separate from being the coach at the field and the dad at home, because then you think of something and you're like, hey, why don't you try this in your swing? And he's like, it's Friday night at 9:00. I just want to play video games. I don't want to hear about my swing right now. And it's tough to turn that off. So I constantly am looking for resources, and my wife kind of keeps me in check on some of that stuff. But it's not an easy road to navigate. I'm sure Kevin's going to have thoughts on this here in about 6, 7, 8 years.
Well, honestly, I have thoughts on it right now. I remember a couple of years ago, Lucas Wilson over at Staley with Coach Wilson, and Lucas was a freshman, and we're opening weekend over at Creekside, and I was over there watching. There's a ton of teams playing, and I caught Coach Wilson in between games, and I looked at him like, where's Lucas? Why? He's like, I don't have him on the VAR. And I looked at him like, you're crazy. Like, he's like, well, I'm going to make him earn it and give him these other guys a chance. And I'm like, Coach, come on. And then I see him at the Columbia tournament, and Lucas, the starting second baseman. It's a tough position for a coach's son. And I would just have similar thoughts with Jarrett after watching the bat he put together in a crucial spot in the state tournament there coming up big. So I get it. Like, coach, a lot of times coaches are often toughest on their sons. And I'm sure Jared experiences a little bit of that. So
it is tough, because you never want them to think that you never want the team to think you're giving them special treatment. So then you also go overboard on some of the other stuff, and it's tough to navigate.
Yeah.
Ah, man, it's tough. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. The COC, it's going to be a fun one. Kevin, final thoughts.
Hey, I'm already fired up to come to Springfield and watch some baseball this spring. You could probably say this most years, but this year in particular, it looks like it's going to be extremely strong. And, there's a lot of talent, and I'm sure that's going to be well represented in our state rankings, but more importantly, as we keep an eye on 25, when we get to these Final Fours and the state championship runs, clearly Springfield is going to be well represented next spring.
Absolutely. Coach McGee, always a pleasure. Final thoughts there, sir.
Yeah, just excited to get going. I think the Kansas City area has, I'm not saying it's past the St. Louis area, but for 10 years ago, the St. Louis area dominated our state. Kansas City has gotten really, really good. You see that in the Final Four with Liberty North and, the teams that Staley's put out, et cetera. So our area is constantly trying to push and get up there. And Kevin referenced it earlier, but if we keep working on our youth programs and we keep developing players down here, hopefully we could be in that conversation soon as far as statewide. And in our classes of 25 and 27, you saw there's a lot of talent there, and hopefully we can keep on pushing there.
That's our first tour stop down in Springfield. We'll be visiting the Willard Youth Program, the Nixa Baseball Club program. We're looking forward to that, seeing what they got going on with their youth programs. It's going to be a lot of fun. Folks, we hope you enjoyed this, dropping knowledge from both of these gentlemen. It's great to have them on the show. If you like what we're doing, please take a quick second, hit the subscribe button, hit the dinger next to it. It's not a home run, but it's a notifications for upcoming episodes such as this. You can't get it anywhere else. We are the most comprehensive baseball talk in the Midwest. We love it. We thank you for joining us. Everybody have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers, Kevin, give them the advice.
Keep throwing strikes or Coach McGee's going to take you out.
Coach McGee, give them the hitters some advice.
Hit the strikes. If they're not in the zone, do not swing.
There you go. Simple as that. We'll see y'all next time.